Hello and welcome to Avenging Past 7. This is day 235 of our free-to-play farming guide. And if you did not watch the full video yesterday, or you cut out early, you missed a lot. So you might want to go back and rewatch the second half of the video if you did not watch it. I started a new rant yesterday, and you might have been able to tell from the beginning of the title of the episode of the video. A rant against or about Disney Marvel and how I feel like they dropped a diamond, and dropping a diamond is a phrase my high school English teacher used quite often when reviewing our essays, our papers, and it's to mean that you come up with an idea that's really good, and so you have a diamond, and as you're writing that paper, you drop it. You drop that idea, you get away from that idea, and you go on to something else that's just not as good. Um, and so she used that quite often in praise of us, of you had a really great idea, but you should have kept with it. You should have kept going with that because that would have been a really good um, continuation for your paper. But you dropped it, you went on to something else, and now your grade's lower. And I'm using that term in the same way with Disney with Disney Marvel, because they had something great. They had Shield. They had Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson. They had Maria Hill, played by Colby Smulders. They had something awesome. And then in Winter Soldier, they got rid of almost all of that. Now, I will say that one of my most exciting moments as a fan of Marvel, one of the most exciting points of being a fan was, I'm trying to think, it was probably like a Tuesday night. Winter Soldier had just released, and my dad and my brother had gone to see it. I had to work. I didn't go see it. My mom had not gone to see it. We sat down to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that night. It had just released, and the episode starts with S.H.I.E.L.D. falling apart. And my dad immediately pauses the episode and says, "We can't watch this until the two of you go and see Winter Soldier." So my mom and I ran down to the movie theater, paid, I think, $5 a ticket at that local theater, and we watched Winter Soldier. Came back home, and I don't know if it was that night or the next day, we sat down as a family and watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and saw their side of the story of S.H.I.E.L.D. falling. And that was just so cool. It was so cool as a fan to see the show reflecting what was occurring in the movies. And there being, like a cohesive story between the two with that. That was so cool as a fan. And so after that moment, I always got excited when a new Marvel movie was coming out, because I thought, are they going to do the same thing? Is something going to happen in S.H.I.E.L.D. that's going to cause an effect in the movies, or are the movies going to cause an effect into the show? And it never happened again. Now, I know Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not officially canon to the MCU. I know that the Marvel's chief of TV, I don't remember what his title was or what his name was, he's gone now. I believe he's gone now. I know that he was fighting with Feige, and so they stopped working together, technically. They stopped planning together, they stopped sharing story beats together, and we never got it again. And I have to say, that was something really cool, really special, that I had not seen done before, where you're getting a TV series with a new season every year that goes on for half the year and is releasing episodes at the same time one of your movies are coming out. And you could have made them, you showed how exciting it could be if they were affecting each other. And then they did not continue it. That's one of my beefs. My other beef with, I guess I'm going to call it a beef with Marvel, is Iron Man 3. Now, I will say, CR Sonic, thank you for all the comments. You gave quite a few comments throughout your watching of the video yesterday. And part of one of your comments, CR Sonic says, I actually enjoyed Iron Man 3 just based on how down to earth it put Tony with his trauma. And that was inside a sentence saying how much you enjoyed Tony Stark's storyline and how great it was. And I'll get to the second half of your comment after this topic because it's about Marvel but different topic of Marvel. Yes, I did like Tony Stark's story arc or character arc. I like how he completely changed as a character. And while I would love to have seen more, I think it was one of the best things we got out of the movies with how long it lasted from Iron Man 1 all the way through Endgame. And I think that was really good and showed what they can do with a character, where they can take a character. I think Captain America is the other one. They had a complete story for him where he grew as a character, he changed as a character, but he did not lose his morals. He never lost his morals, and that's something I feel like is important about Captain America. He comes from a time where good is good, evil is evil, and it's just that simple. One of my favorite lines from a comic book is, I don't know what, I think it's from a Civil War comic, one of the ones within the Civil War story. But they bring it up in, I think in Civil War movie. Now, instead of Captain America saying it, Sharon Carter says it within the movie. But it is that I'll just look it up real quick because it's a great line. I love the quote. It's a much longer quote than I had remembered, but the important part that I really love is, when the mob and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth and tell the whole world, no, you move. And I really love that quote. I think it really exemplifies Captain America as a character. He stands for truth. Now, I know it's more Superman, but he stands for truth, justice, and the American way. Just like Superman. Um, and I think that they showed that in a really great way. I think that they did. To get into Civil War, Captain America would not work with the government for what they wanted to do with monitoring all superpowered people and all these regulations and stuff on them. Now, in the comics, it's a lot better, of course. They had hundreds and thousands of heroes dealing with this and using their story to show it off. But at the least, Civil War showed what it was like for these characters in this smaller world. Now, so there's all that. Now, CR Sonics. No, I'm not done with Iron Man 3. I'm not done with Iron Man 3. So those were some good things out of Iron Man 3. I can agree with. Tony Stark's story was good. His character arc was great. And Iron Man 3 was a necessary... Tony Stark's journey through Iron Man 3 was a necessary part of that story. I'll say it that way. Why I was angry leaving Iron Man 3 in the theaters. At the time Iron Man 3 released, there was an animated Iron Man show called Iron Man Armored Adventures. And if you're around my age, you might remember it. What I really liked about that show, being a young teen, was a teenage Iron Man, teenage Pepper Potts, teenage Rhodey, fighting their big bad, amongst many others, because TV. But the big bad was the Mandarin. And the main arc of the show was the Mandarin trying to collect the 10 Rings of Power and Iron Man having to stop him. So my brother and I are watching the show, and it is awesome. Now I haven't gone back to rewatch it since. Maybe it's a dated kids show, but for a kid, it was awesome. And we got to learn about Iron Man and his villains that he would usually go up against. We got to learn about who the Mandarin was, what the Mandarin's character is like, and what his powers are like. And you can't stop. You can't get in the way of my mouse. Um, and so that was exciting. And then we hear that the Mandarin is going to be the bad guy in Iron Man 3. We were so excited. And so we go to see Iron Man 3, and the movie is just part of the incredible story and part of just lying to the fans. I won't it's not a subversion of expectations. It's not a surprise twist. It's just lying to the fans. You're going to get to see Iron Man finally fight the Mandarin. Back in the 90s, I believe. Some of you can probably correct me. Back in the 90s, there was an Iron Man animated show, and the Mandarin was the big bad. Iron Man Armored Adventures. The Mandarin is the big bad. He is not a well-known villain of Iron Man, but he is a known villain of Iron Man. And to see go in to see this movie, and the Mandarin they use in this movie is just an actor portraying the character on behalf of another bad guy, was so upsetting. It was so upsetting, and I hated it. I hated it. I don't even know how to explain. Just like, I was not interested in that story. Now, so many years later, was it last year, 2 years ago now? I think it came out in 2020. Shang-Chi came out, and Marvel displayed a true or much more realistic version of the Mandarin. I say realistic, a much more comic accurate, even if not perfectly comic accurate, version of the Mandarin, and I liked it. I thought it was good. Um, it also, that movie made me appreciate Trevor Slattery, played by Ben Kingsley. I thought that the way that they emphasized more of him being a goofball, being kind of crazy. I appreciated that more now that we're getting a real Mandarin. I think that if you had done what they wanted to do with the Mandarin, and then within Iron Man 3 bring in the real Mandarin for the end part, would have been, I think it would have been much better. They didn't. So that's my issue with Iron Man 3, is feeling lied to as a fan. Now, again, we get another bit of lying to the fans with CR Sonic's second sentence. The main disappointment for CR Sonic was how they used Wanda in Multiverse of Madness. It was cool, but just didn't feel right. Now, I really enjoyed watching Multiverse of Madness. I enjoyed it as a movie. And I think it was a decent movie, even with what they did with Wanda. The problem that comes up with what they did with Wanda is that it felt so different from what we had just watched with WandaVision. Now, I need to try and collect myself here, because I'm trying to remember, and I'm starting to talk about stuff that I don't remember as much. And I know that I've read articles and watched videos on the topic, but not enough to fully remember. But they were working on Multiverse of Madness before WandaVision was finished. And so those working on Multiverse of Madness did not truly know where Wanda's story was going to be by the time their movie was coming out. Which, that's just poor planning. And then fans don't know what to expect. Fans don't know what they're going to get out of it. Or more so, fans are going to expect something and get something different because your stories are not aligned in the right way. Which, come on, Marvel. You are if not the biggest production company out there, one of the biggest, and you didn't have time to fully plan out your stories so that they one at least the story was done before the next story was starting to be created. There's another problem with Disney Marvel. Um, I feel like they're getting closer to where I would want them to be as a fan with Disney Plus. Now Disney Plus has a lot of struggles and problems that they're dealing with, and I understand that. I do understand that, and I do get that. But but they're getting there. And what I like most about Disney Marvel with Disney Plus is that um I got 15 million credits. Okay. Is that we can get the small stories. We can get the small stories with that. Now, what are the small stories? Well, like Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. It's not that big a story. It now they go across the world a little bit, which okay, cool. Um, the bad guys want to destroy the world. All right, but it's mostly dealing with her and her relationships with the people around her, and I can appreciate that. I can. I can appreciate that movie or that series. I did not sit down thinking I sat down thinking I would not like it, that it would not be the show created for me. I'm not the target audience. I'm not the target demographic. But I'm gonna sit down and watch a Marvel show, and I really enjoyed it. And you might remember me talking about it when it was coming out, with my thoughts on it. And with that said, that's what I've been wanting out of Marvel. It's those small stories to build the character, to grow the character, so that, to introduce the character, and then bring them into a movie, like what they're doing. I think that's great. Start the character off as someone into something small, introduce them. Then when you're ready, bring them into the big project. Don't introduce them in someone else's story, like just like Ironheart. Ironheart's supposed to be getting her own story, if I remember correctly, but she was introduced in Black Panther, which I haven't seen, so I don't have much to say about it. But she was introduced in someone else's story, which Black Panther, from what I know, is half of just a um, in honor of Chadwick Boseman movie, and the other half is setting up was it Shuri as Black Panther. Which okay, that cool. That's what you're doing with the movie. No complaints. But in the same time, you're introducing Namor. In the same time, you're introducing Shuri Williams. I think that's the last name. Not Shuri. And you're introducing Riri Williams. So in the same time of you're trying to make a story in honor of someone who passed away, who was a big supporter of their fans. You're trying to, so in honor of Chadwick Boseman, bringing up Shuri, and now you're introducing two really big characters. I say really big. One really big character, and another character that at least deserves her own entrance, deserves her own story introduction. Because Riri Williams is one of the ways that I would appreciate how you do legacy characters. She is, I don't, she is Ironheart. She is, to mimic Iron Man, but not replace Iron Man. She is not just a replaceable. She's not just a replacement for the character, which I think we might talk about maybe in next times with my thoughts on Nightwing and stuff. But it's it's something that I enjoy is these comics, and you don't just what's the word? Might be our topic for tomorrow, but these comics are not just stories, and they're not just they're not more important than real life. They're not. They're not the most important thing in the world. they don't need to dictate our happiness or our how our day went. Now you can have a bad day because you were excited about a good Iron Man movie and then that you didn't get that. All right, cool. But they don't need to control our lives or anything like that. They're they're just movies or they're just comics. It's just a show, just a video game. But and here's where here but modern comics, modern movies, modern video games are modern mythology. They've taken the place of Greek mythology, of Roman mythology, of Aesop's fables, and where I think storytellers in today's time could learn from again is that fact. These are the modern myths, the modern mythos that as storytellers you can use to teach lessons. Just like with children's shows, young children's shows, um, the children want something, learn that, the parent says no, they're upset, they learn that they can be okay with being upset or they can be okay without that item, they don't have to have it. And they learn a moral, they learn patience, they learn kindness, they learn how to share, and they're, all these kinds of things. Well, in the same way, through Batman's story of losing Robin to the Joker with Jason Todd, we as readers can learn how to deal with grief through watching Batman deal with grief. We as readers can, come to terms with our own loss through seeing how a hero of ours deals with loss. And I think that stories have somewhat moved away from that, and it's just about justifying the bad guy. I'm getting onto a totally different topic. We'll have to continue this tomorrow. But I hope you stuck around this long. If you did, please comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on all of this. I am not the last word on any topic that I talk about. Half the times I'm the third, fourth word, just repeating what others have said or giving my own thoughts on what others have said. But I do love to have these discussions, have these long videos where I can go on and share my own thoughts on what I think is important out of a project or what we can learn out of a project or what my complaints were. Sometimes you just gotta complain. So I hope you enjoyed it. I will be trying to film. Let's see, am I gonna have time to film? I might not have time to film Grand Arena today, but I'll give a quick view of our opponent. I can't remember if we looked at him already. I think we did yesterday, but here's him again. 3.9 mil. Good bit of relics. Does he have any direction for his team? Looks like he's got a good bloated team. Good wide range. Tons of Gear 12s. So the YouTube account might not have a big chance. But I'll see if I have time, I'll record. If not, I'm sorry. I will give a report in the Discord of how it went. But y'all have a fantastic day. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please subscribe if you have not already. Please comment down below with your own thoughts and your own takes on all this. Y'all have a fantastic day, and may the Force be with you.